Note, as this appears to be the initial board state provided, we will analyze the strategic landscape rather than identifying a specific move. Welcome back to the action. We are deep into the opening phase here on the Othello board. The pieces have only just begun to scatter from their starting positions, and the central cluster of stones suggests both players are cautiously establishing early footholds in the mid-right quadrant. The current count is tight, with both sides maintaining parity, a perfect balance that speaks volumes about the strategic caution displayed so far. No one has committed to a corner yet, nor have they established an overwhelming positional advantage on either flank. This is the critical phase of development. The goal right now isn't just capturing stones, it's about tempo and potential. Who can secure control over the key intersections, the points that allow for maximum extension in multiple directions? We are looking for moves that not only capture immediate stone value but also create long-term structural stability, forcing our opponent to react defensively. The board is wide open, and every move here will define the character of the coming mid-game struggle. Welcome back, folks. We are on the precipice of action here. The board is pristine, settled into the classic starting configuration, the initial four pieces defining the center battlefield. Since this represents the start of play, we aren't analyzing a specific move yet, rather, we are establishing the strategic landscape for what promises to be an intense opening phase. The current state, we have the standard setup, two opposing pairs in the central 2x2 quadrant. The immediate goal is clear: solidify control and expand influence. Strategic analysis, opening phase in Othello, the early game revolves around tempo and corner acquisition. While the center is currently defined, the true battleground will be securing those edges and corners that are not yet occupied. We need to look for moves that maximize potential flips and restrict the opponent's expansion paths. The next few turns will dictate who gains the initiative. Players must prioritize: 1. Corner control. Establishing a foothold in one of the four corners is paramount, as these areas offer the highest return on investment. 2. Flank development. Expanding outward from the center to create multiple potential attack vectors. The board is perfectly balanced right now, a true stalemate before the storm. All eyes are on the first move. Who will make the opening declaration? The pressure is palpable. Since this is the first board state presented, we will conduct an initial strategic assessment rather than analyzing a specific move. Welcome back, everyone. We are deep into the action here on the Othello board. The pieces have settled into a complex formation, indicating that we are past the opening skirmishes and entering a critical mid-game phase. If you look at this cluster of stones, what's immediately apparent is the intense battle for central control and quadrant dominance. Both sides have established several pivotal positions, creating potential threats on multiple fronts. The current strategic landscape suggests a focus on expansion rather than immediate capture. The players are looking to establish stable flanks, securing those critical edge points that can later be used to cut off opponent groups or build solid defensive walls. Keep your eyes peeled for any attempts to penetrate the center, as controlling the four central squares, d4, e5, etc., remains the ultimate goal in Othello. The next move will likely determine which side gains tempo and dictates the flow of the game. This is going to be a fascinating sequence. Since no previous board state was provided, this analysis treats the current image as the starting point for the commentary, focusing on the immediate strategic landscape. Welcome back, Othello enthusiasts. We are looking at a fascinating early to mid-game scenario developing in the left quadrant. The board is highly asymmetric, and both players have distinct structural goals right now. The pink player has established a formidable horizontal line of four pieces, b5 through e5. This cluster gives them immediate stability and strong influence across the fifth rank. They are currently controlling critical central real estate on this edge. Meanwhile, black has placed a single piece at a4. This is a cautious opening move for black, placing a piece near the corner but far from establishing immediate group synergy. It feels like an attempt to anchor their presence and prepare for a future expansion into the lower left quadrant. Strategic assessment: the game currently hinges on who can best exploit the open space above and below this central cluster. The pink player has secured tempo and structure, suggesting they are ready to build outward or solidify corner control. For black, the immediate priority must be lateral movement, challenging that b5e5 line by expanding vertically or making a counter-pincer move further from the action. We are watching for a response that either directly challenges the pink chain's integrity or establishes an independent threat far away to force the opponent into defensive positioning. This is going to be a battle of influence and expansion. Since no previous board state was provided, this commentary analyzes the current strategic landscape and assumes we are awaiting the next move. Welcome back to the board. We've entered what looks like a tense mid-game battle. The action is highly localized in the bottom right quadrant, suggesting that both players have been fighting for critical territory rather than expanding across the entire board. Currently, the piece distribution shows significant skirmishes taking place around the lower edge. Both black and white have established small but solid formations, indicating a struggle for local control and tempo. If it is black's turn, assuming based on the UI, black needs to be extremely precise here. The immediate goal isn't necessarily corner dominance, though that remains key, but rather establishing a strong defensive line while simultaneously creating an irresistible threat. We are looking for moves that maximize captures, ideally forcing white into a defensive reaction or leaving them with few viable options. The strategic focus right now must be on connecting isolated groups and preventing the opponent from linking their own clusters to secure major points of influence. A well-placed move here could turn this localized skirmish into a decisive breakthrough. Keep your eyes open for any potential fork opportunities, a single move that threatens multiple captures simultaneously. This is high-level tactical play. Welcome back to the action. We've reached a fascinating point in this mid-game struggle. The board is highly contested, and both players are fighting for crucial central control and corner stability. Strategic analysis. Looking at the current setup, it's clear that tempo is everything. Both sides have established strong groupings, but there are still open lines of attack. The action seems focused around the center-right quadrant, the G/H and 4/5 area. This region is becoming a critical battleground. Observation: the board suggests a transition from pure expansion into tactical skirmishes. Players must now prioritize not just placing pieces, but creating irreversible structural advantages, securing chains of stones that force the opponent into difficult defensive positions or sacrifice material to gain positional control. Who makes the next move will be crucial. We are looking for opportunities to develop forks or create threats that force a reaction, rather than simply making neutral placements. The tension is palpable. Every stone placed here could shift the balance of power. The commentator's voice is energetic and anticipatory. Welcome back. We are right at the start of a brand new match, and the board is set with the initial 4 pieces in place. This opening phase is critical because establishing early influence dictates much of the game's tempo. Currently, we have strong corner positions established, the foundational pillars of Othello strategy. The immediate goal for our player is to maximize territorial control while preparing for future expansion. Strategic assessment: the board currently emphasizes the corners and the edges. While the initial setup gives us a solid foundation, controlling the adjacent squares that connect these corners will be key. We are looking for moves that don't just capture immediate pieces, but those that build lasting structural advantage. Our player has the move now. Think about which placement, say, moving toward the center or securing an empty corner, will give us the most options and the greatest potential for chain captures later on. This is a phase of careful calculation. Every single square choice must be weighed against its long-term defensive and offensive value. The pressure is on. Let's see how this opening move shapes the board dynamics. Welcome back to the board. We are deep into the strategic phase of this match. With the score currently sitting at 6 for blue and 10 for black, AI has built a solid lead, establishing strong control in several key areas. Strategic evaluation: the current state demands precision from our player. While black has managed to secure influence around the center-right flank, leaving us some critical defensive tasks. Our objective now is not just to make a move, but to seize tempo and challenge black's structural advantage. Identifying key areas: look at the corners, they are always paramount. We need to assess if there are any immediate corner threats that must be addressed, or if we can use an opening move to establish dominance in the center, forcing a response from AI. Pre-move commentary: the board is ripe with possibilities. A strong play here could either challenge black's existing perimeter control, perhaps by aiming for the central axis, like e5 or d4, or it could be a more defensive move to solidify our own position and prevent any immediate breakthrough on the flanks. The decision hinges on maximizing captures while minimizing future weaknesses. Let's see where the player chooses to strike next. It will determine if we can claw back into this game. Welcome back, everyone. We're deep into a fascinating mid-game phase here on the Othello board. The tension is palpable, and both players are looking for that critical breakthrough move. Looking at the current board state, it's clear that AI has established a strong lead in material count, 12 pieces to your 6. They have successfully cornered some territory, particularly in the bottom right quadrant. However, you, as the player, have several opportunities to challenge their structure and regain tempo. The focus is currently on the f5 position. This move is not merely about placing a piece, it's a strategic declaration. By playing at f5, you are achieving immediate goals of consolidation and limitation. Strategic analysis. 1. Connection and stability. This placement connects your existing pieces, particularly those near e4 and g4, solidifying a central anchor point for your forces. It prevents the AI from easily slicing through this area to expand their territory further up the board. 2. Blocking potential. Crucially, f5 acts as an excellent blocker. It restricts the AI's most obvious line of expansion running horizontally across the middle ranks, the 5th row. If they were allowed to play here, it would create a powerful chain reaction for them. 3. Tempo control. This move forces the AI to react defensively or commit resources elsewhere. You are dictating the pace of the game by claiming this central real estate. In essence, f5 is a masterful defensive maneuver that simultaneously serves as an offensive threat. It stabilizes your position while denying the opponent key expansion points. A strong play, securing stability and preparation for a potential counterattack in the next few turns. Welcome back to the board. We are deep into the opening phase here, and the strategic tension is building across all quadrants. Since we don't have a specific move to analyze right now, let's take a moment to appreciate the current board state and the tactical landscape. Strategic analysis. The action has been focused on establishing footholds in the corners and along the critical edges. We see several stable formations developing. The control of multiple adjacent points is paramount at this stage. The objective remains clear: secure those corner positions, as they provide the most inherent stability and long-term advantage. Current tempo. Right now, every available move must be evaluated not just for immediate captures, but for its potential. A seemingly minor placement can act as a strategic pivot point, forcing the opponent to respond defensively or allowing us to launch an aggressive attack on a weak flank. The game is transitioning from pure corner establishment into complex positional play. It's a fascinating board state. The next player needs precision. They must look for the move that maximizes control while minimizing vulnerability. Let's see where this round of action takes us. Welcome back to the board. We're looking at a complex and highly contested mid-game scenario here. As we analyze this current setup, it's clear that both sides have fought hard for positional advantage. The corners are established, but the real battleground is developing along the edges and in the center quadrant. Currently, the board suggests a moment of tactical pause. We need to look closely at potential moves. Both black, the side whose turn it appears to be, and white still hold opportunities to expand their influence. If black plays into that open area near the bottom right, for example, g7 or h6, they could aim to cut off white's expansion along the edge and secure a critical connecting point. This move would not only solidify black's territory but also put immediate pressure on several of the isolated white pieces. Conversely, if white can successfully establish dominance in the central columns, they might be able to create a structural weakness that forces black into an uncomfortable defensive posture. This is classic mid-game tension. Every empty spot here represents potential points and strategic control. The next move will be crucial. It must balance immediate point gain with long-term positional stability. Let's see how the players navigate this delicate phase. Welcome back to the board. We are deep into a highly contested middle game here. The score currently favors AI with 13 pieces to your 11, a slight edge that puts the pressure squarely on you to find an immediate tactical advantage. Looking at this setup, control of the center remains paramount, but we also need to be mindful of those outer quadrants. The board is quite developed, neither side has secured a perfect defensive perimeter yet. The key strategic area right now revolves around establishing stability while simultaneously looking for opportunities to flip multiple pieces in one go. A move that solidifies an edge or controls the intersection points will be vital here. It's a moment requiring precision, a deep calculation of potential captures versus long-term positional gain. Let's see what calculated response you have ready. Initial board analysis. Setting the scene. Welcome back to the board. We are currently in the mid-game phase of this intense match. The score is tight. White holds a slight advantage at 14 pieces to Black's 12. White has established strong control over several key areas, particularly around the top right and bottom center edges. The action is now on Black. You need to find a move that not only captures stones but also challenges White's structural integrity or secures tempo for future development. Looking at the board, the strategic tension is building up in the lower middle quadrant, specifically around e3 and f3. The cursor is currently pointing toward e3, suggesting this area is critical. If Black plays at e3, it immediately challenges White's formation there, forcing a confrontation that could lead to significant captures or establish a solid defensive anchor for your pieces. This move isn't just about territory, it's about tempo. By playing here, you are dictating the next exchange and potentially opening up lines of attack against White's less stable clusters. A well-placed stone at e3 could initiate a chain reaction, shifting the positional advantage back into Black's favor. Let's see how this move develops the battle for control in the center. And we are deep into the mid-game tension here on the board. The score currently stands at 12 for the human and 14 for the AI, giving the machine a slight material edge. This is where strategic precision matters most. The human player needs to find a move that doesn't just gain pieces, but one that fundamentally destabilizes the AI's structure or secures vital tempo control. Looking at the board, the center remains highly contested. The AI has established solid lines around the edges, particularly in the upper right quadrant. However, there are still several key points, especially along the third and fourth ranks, that offer potential for deep penetration. The human must be careful not to play into a trap that allows the AI to solidify its position further. A strong move here would likely involve challenging the stability of those central groupings, forcing the opponent to respond defensively, and thus seizing the initiative. It's a critical moment of calculation. Every single placement could swing the momentum. Welcome back to the board. We are currently deep into the mid-game tension here. Looking at the scoreboard, the AI holds a commanding lead with 17 pieces against your 11. This shows that the game has transitioned well past the initial opening skirmishes and we are now in a phase where precision and strategic counterplay are absolutely vital. Since this is your turn, you need to be looking for moves that don't just gain points, but fundamentally challenge the AI's established control. The AI has successfully cornered itself into a strong position, controlling key areas of the board. Your immediate goal must be twofold. First, to find effective forcing sequences, moves that capture multiple pieces and force the AI into difficult defensive decisions, and second, to establish stability in the center or on an edge where the AI hasn't yet achieved total dominance. We need to see if you can execute a deep tactical strike to narrow this point gap and shift the momentum back toward yourself. Welcome back to the board. We are deep into the mid-game here, and the strategic tension is palpable. The board has reached a point where minor placements can have massive ripple effects on parity and corner control. Looking at this current setup, the action seems to be shifting toward securing the edges and establishing stable anchor points. It appears that the last move, or the opponent's most recent placement, has solidified their position in the upper right quadrant, making it quite robust. However, there is a significant opportunity for disruption on the lower side of the board, particularly around the central intersections near the bottom edge. The current configuration allows for a potential pincer movement. If we can successfully establish control over that key intersection, say, moving into the area where the pieces are currently sparse but connectable, we could challenge their established territory and force them onto the defensive tempo-wise. This is no longer about simply claiming corners, it's about controlling lines of attack and maximizing our potential for flipping groups. The goal now must be to find a move that not only secures immediate points but also creates multiple threats simultaneously, forcing the opponent into a difficult choice between defending one area or another. A careful, aggressive placement is required here. Analysis note: since no previous board state was provided for comparison, this commentary will focus on a deep strategic analysis of the current board position, anticipating the next critical move for the human player. Welcome back. We are deep into the mid-game tension here. The board is highly contested, and with AI holding a substantial lead, 19 pieces to our 13, the pressure is definitely on you to find a decisive counterpunch. The current landscape shows several key areas of conflict. While the corners are generally stabilized by both sides, the action is really centering around establishing control over the critical connecting lines and maximizing influence in the middle ranks. Strategic assessment: AI has successfully built a strong wall across the center right, dominating potential expansion routes. However, must look for opportunities that not only score points but also threaten to destabilize AI's existing formations or secure a vital corner piece before it becomes too late. I recommend looking at moves that maximize flexibility, moves that give you options for multiple future turns, rather than just immediate point gains. If there is an available move near the top left quadrant, A1 to D4, that area still feels slightly underutilized and could be a prime spot for establishing parity. This is the phase of the game where precise calculation is paramount. Every single placement must not only capture pieces but also prevent the opponent from creating irreversible structural advantages. The board screams for an aggressive, yet calculated response, a move that forces AI into a defensive posture while simultaneously expanding your own territory. Let's see what strategic depth can bring to this turn. Welcome back. We're looking at a highly developed board here. The game is clearly moving into its critical mid to late stages. The initial setup has given way to complex positional fighting, and every move now carries significant weight. Current board analysis: the board shows a dense cluster of pieces, indicating that the early skirmishes have been fierce. Both sides have established substantial influence across multiple sectors. We are past the simple opening moves. This is about strategic depth and forcing sequences. Strategic observation: the current distribution suggests a battle for parity in the center and control over remaining open lines. Several areas show potential captures, meaning that any move needs to be highly precise. The goal right now isn't just gaining pieces, it's controlling tempo and limiting the opponent's options. Commentary focus: when considering the next play, players must look for moves that achieve one of three things. 1. Forcing capture, a move that immediately flips multiple opponent discs, forcing a large exchange. 2. Influence expansion, establishing stability or control over an open quadrant to build future threats. 3. Corner security/blocking, preventing the opponent from securing a critical corner or diagonal line of attack. The board is ripe with opportunities for tactical blunders, so maintaining positional discipline will be key for whoever moves next. We are in a phase demanding deep calculation and foresight. Welcome back to the board. We are deep into the mid-game tension here, where every single placement carries immense weight. It appears our player has just executed a move at A7. This is not merely a positional drop, it's a deeply strategic play that immediately defines the boundaries of this quadrant. Strategic analysis: by placing a piece at A7, the player achieves several critical objectives simultaneously. First, they establish an immediate anchor point in the corner, solidifying black's presence and making it difficult for white to develop freely along the left edge. Second, it acts as a subtle blockade, limiting any potential expansion or counterattack by white into that crucial bottom left sector. This move demonstrates excellent foresight. It doesn't aim for immediate captures, though those are always welcome, but rather focuses on territorial control and stabilization. By securing this corner, the player is effectively locking down a section of the board, forcing white to either concede this area or commit significant resources to challenging it later. We are moving past the pure opening skirmishes and into a phase where positional advantage dictates the tempo. The ability to claim these anchor points like A7 is what separates the champions from the contenders. This move gives black a measurable lead in corner control, which translates directly into long-term piece count potential. A very solid, highly professional move that shifts the balance of power slightly in favor of the current player. Welcome back to the action.
We are deep into the mid-game tension here, and this board is incredibly dense. The strategic landscape is complex, with both players having established significant control over key areas. Strategic analysis: looking at the current board state, the player, blue, has built a commanding lead in piece count, 23 pieces to 14 for the AI, red. This indicates strong early to mid-game development and excellent positional play.
Blue has successfully locked down several central groups and established a robust perimeter.
Focus area: the immediate focus is on the center-right quadrant, specifically around F5/G6. While red has managed to hold some pockets of territory, blue maintains superior connectivity and potential for chain captures. The edges are starting to become critical. Securing those remaining open lines will be paramount. Anticipation: the next move is going to be a tempo play, a move that doesn't necessarily capture pieces immediately but restricts the opponent's future options or solidifies a corner for the long haul. Red needs to find an aggressive counterplay, perhaps attempting a deep penetration into the center mass, or alternatively, focus on stabilizing one of their more isolated groups near the bottom edge. This is classic Othello tension. Every single empty square represents a potential battleground, and whoever can control the tempo and maintain connectivity will seize the initiative.
A truly fascinating position. Welcome back. We are deep into the action here on the Othello board.
The game has moved past the initial opening skirmishes and we are firmly in a phase of strategic tension, where every single placement counts. Strategic assessment: looking at this current setup, the control is highly contested.
The center remains volatile, which is exactly where the major battles will be fought.
Both sides have established strong anchor points, but there are several potential pockets that could shift the balance of power dramatically. Key observations: notice how black, the player, has secured a solid presence in the upper right quadrant, creating excellent defensive lines and preparing for corner consolidation. Meanwhile, white has maintained a powerful grip along the bottom edge and is aggressively pushing into the center left area. This suggests that whoever can successfully challenge the stability of those central white groups will gain a significant tempo advantage. The next move: at this stage, the priority isn't just about capturing stones, it's about control. The player needs to look for moves that do two things: first, they must secure an unassailable connection between existing black pieces, and second, they must create a threat that forces the opponent into a difficult defensive response. A move here could establish a critical line of attack or potentially isolate one of white's larger groups.
It's a fascinating position, a true battle for positional dominance. The next few moves will be crucial in determining who can dictate the pace and ultimately claim board superiority. Welcome back to the board. We are deep into the opening phase here, and the early moves are absolutely critical for establishing tempo and controlling key areas. Looking at this current setup, we see a relatively open field, which means every move is weighed heavily toward future territorial control. The immediate focus must be on securing influence rather than just points. Players need to think about two things right now: corner dominance and central stability.
While the corners are prime targets for eventual occupation, they offer maximum defensive value. The center squares often dictate who gets tempo in the mid-game fight. The player making the next move has a tremendous opportunity to establish an early positional advantage.
A strong opening move should ideally, 1. Challenge the opponent's planned development. 2. Create multiple potential threats, forking opportunities. 3. Secure a square that links two different parts of the board. It's a strategic ballet right now. Patience and calculation are paramount as we move into the first major skirmish. Welcome back to the board. We've reached a critical juncture in this game. We are deep into the mid-game, and the positional battle is heating up. Since we are analyzing the current tableau, let's take a moment to assess the strategic landscape before the next move is made. Strategic analysis: the board currently shows a complex web of pieces, indicating that both players have been actively contesting key intersections. The piece count, 18 for you and 24 for your opponent, suggests that they have maintained a significant material advantage, which puts immediate pressure on finding countermoves. Focus areas: the current setup suggests that controlling the edges and preventing the opponent from establishing stable chains is paramount. We need to look for moves that do more than just capture. We need moves that restrict future options for the opposing player while simultaneously building our own defensive structure.
Commentary insight: if a move were to be played now, it would ideally target one of three things. First, establishing tempo in an unoccupied corner or edge area. Second, challenging the stability of their largest cluster of pieces. Or third, securing a key intersection that allows for multiple future development paths.
The goal isn't just capture, it's about positional dominance.
The board is ripe with potential, but also filled with traps.
A precise move here could swing the momentum dramatically. Let's see what the player chooses to do next. Every placement counts in this high-stakes environment.
Since no previous board state was provided for comparison, this analysis focuses on evaluating the current strategic landscape and potential moves available to the player.
Welcome back. We are deep into a fascinating mid to late game phase here.
The board is highly developed, and every remaining move carries significant weight. This isn't about simple expansion anymore, it's about structural advantage and calculating those long capture chains. Looking at this configuration, the game has reached a critical juncture.
We need to assess who controls the tempo and who can force the opponent into defensive maneuvers.
The current density suggests that direct corner battles are mostly settled, but there are still several key edges and open spots that could lead to massive reversals of fortune.
Strategic assessment: 1. Central control. The center remains contested, but it's largely stabilized by both sides. Our focus must shift outward. 2. Weak links. I see some potential weak links forming along the right flank, the vertical column on the far right.
Depending on which color is playing next, targeting those gaps could allow for a breakthrough capture sequence.
3. The tempo play. The most valuable move right now isn't necessarily the one that captures the most pieces immediately, it's the move that limits the opponent's options while securing future flexibility. A solid edge placement can act as a shield, preventing the opponent from connecting their lines and building an unbreakable wall.
The recommendation: if I were playing here, I would look for a move that establishes stability on one of the less developed edges, perhaps reinforcing the connection between the established clusters in the upper half. This secures our territory and forces the opponent to either try a risky breakthrough or settle for smaller gains.
Controlling the board's periphery is key to winning this endgame. Welcome back, folks. We are deep into a fascinating battle here on the Othello board.
Looking at this current configuration, we can tell that the opening skirmishes have passed, and we are firmly in the tactical mid-game phase. The material count is quite telling. Black holds a significant advantage with 25 pieces compared to White's 19. This substantial lead suggests that Black has successfully executed several forcing sequences, seizing control of key central points and corner edges. Currently, the board presents several strategic dilemmas for both players. While Black maintains the material edge, they must now transition from pure accumulation to positional dominance. The goal is no longer just capturing pieces, but solidifying an unassailable position. We need to watch closely for any attempts by White to challenge the central stability or secure a critical corner that hasn't been fully locked down. Black needs to continue pressing their advantage, looking for moves that not only capture stones but also restrict White's future movement options, creating what we call tempo pressure.
It's a tense board state. Every move here will be scrutinized for its long-term consequence, as the endgame precision is going to be absolutely critical. Let's see who makes the next decisive play. Welcome back. We've reached a fascinating stage of the board here. Since this is our first look at this particular state, let's take a deep dive into the strategic landscape we have before us. The game has progressed significantly, and the initial skirmishes are over. We are firmly in the mid to late game tension. The center remains highly contested, which means every single move needs to be precise. Right now, we see several key areas of potential conflict. 1. Edge control. Look at the edges, there are still some open lines that could allow for a quick tempo gain. Controlling these perimeter spots is vital for securing future moves and preventing your opponent from establishing unbreakable walls. 2. Potential captures. The board suggests several areas where minor placements could lead to massive chain captures. We need to look for moves that don't just capture pieces, but force the opponent into a difficult defensive position. 3. Board balance. From a positional standpoint, both sides have established strong footholds in certain quadrants. The current player needs to decide whether to consolidate their existing gains, making the board more stable, or if they should initiate an aggressive push into a contested zone to disrupt the opponent's structure. The focus now shifts from simply capturing pieces to controlling tempo and space.
We are looking for that perfect balance, a move that is defensively solid, yet offensively threatening. The next placement will dictate whether we enter a phase of careful endgame precision or if another dramatic turning point is about to unfold.
Welcome back to the board.
We are deep into what looks like a highly contested mid-game phase here.
Chesspawn live commentary analysis observation. The current board state shows a complex struggle for control, particularly around the center and along the flanks.
With white currently holding a significant piece advantage, 30 versus 18, maintaining defensive stability while seeking counterattacks is paramount for black.
Strategic focus. The immediate priority must be to challenge white's central dominance.
While white has established strong footholds in the corners, there are still key intersection points that can be leveraged for a large capture or to establish a permanent blockade.
The tempo. This board demands precision.
Every move needs to serve multiple purposes. It must secure territory, limit the opponent's expansion, and ideally, set up a forcing sequence that leads to a significant exchange of pieces. Anticipating the move, the player, black, needs to carefully evaluate which moves offer the highest probability of capture while simultaneously improving the board's structural integrity. We are looking for a move that doesn't just exist, but one that dictates the flow and forces white into an uncomfortable defensive posture.
Let's see where black decides to strike next. This is a fascinating tactical landscape.
Since no previous board state was provided, this commentary analyzes the current strategic landscape and potential moves available on the displayed board.
Welcome back to the board.
We are deep into a fascinating mid-game phase here. The board is highly contested, showing significant development in both corners and along the central diagonals. Currently, white holds a slight numerical advantage, but black has established some crucial influence points that could lead to major reversals.
The current focus must be on group stability and maximizing corner potential.
While there are several legal moves available for black, the most strategically impactful move appears to be targeting the upper left quadrant near a7 or b8. If black can secure a piece in that area, it would not only challenge white's control over the corner but also create a more stable line of attack along the top edge.
This move would deny white an easy expansion point and force them into a reactive defensive posture.
In Othello, controlling the tempo is everything. Black needs to find a spot that simultaneously solidifies its own structure while putting maximum pressure on the weakest links in the opposing formation. A calculated move here could shift the momentum entirely and set up for a decisive late-game scoring spree.
Welcome back to the board.
We are deep into the mid-game tension here, and the strategic landscape is becoming incredibly complex. Since we're analyzing the current static state, let's take a moment to assess the overall board formation. The initial opening skirmishes have given way to a battle for control over key quadrants and connecting chains. Strategic analysis. Right now, both sides have established solid foundations in their respective corners, which is crucial for long-term stability. However, look at the central columns. That's where the real action will be. Both black, dark blue, and red/white are building potential walls that aim to cut off enemy groups or secure critical connection points.
The current focus needs to shift from simply occupying space to controlling tempo and identifying weaknesses in the opponent's structure. Are there any isolated pieces that can be captured with a single, decisive move? Is one side overextending its flank control? This is a phase of precision play. The next player must look beyond immediate captures and consider how their move contributes to a larger, unbreakable formation. A seemingly minor placement now could dictate the outcome of an entire quadrant 5 moves from now. The board is ripe for calculated risk-taking. Let's see what strategic masterstroke comes next. Welcome back. We are deep into the mid-game action here, and the board is certainly tense. Currently, white holds a significant material advantage with 32 pieces against black's 18. This deficit means that every move black makes needs to be highly impactful. It can't just be a defensive placement, it has to be an aggressive counterpunch. Looking at the strategic landscape right now, white has established strong control across the center and several key quadrants. They have built up a solid perimeter of pieces, making many potential moves look stable for them. For black, the immediate challenge is finding a breakthrough point or creating a forcing sequence that can quickly swing the tempo. We need to identify an area where we can trap multiple white stones simultaneously.
The corners are still contested, but more importantly, the center lanes, especially around the D/E files in 4th rank, are ripe for tension. Black needs to look for moves that don't just defend, but that actively challenge White's structural integrity. A well-placed move now could force White into a defensive posture, allowing Black to stabilize their own position while simultaneously chipping away at the material lead. This is classic mid-game pressure. Every stone has weight.
Welcome back to the board. We are deep into the mid to late stages of this intense match. The current count stands at 25 for Black and 26 for White, giving White a slight material advantage right now. The strategic landscape is incredibly tight.
Both players have established strong control in several key sectors, particularly along the top and bottom edges.
However, the action seems to be focusing on maximizing influence and securing remaining open points.
If we look at the current board setup, there's significant tension around the D10 area where the cursor is currently positioned.
This region represents a crucial pivot point.
A move here could potentially disrupt White's control of that flank or, conversely, allow White to solidify an unassailable position.
Black needs to be extremely precise with their next placement.
They must look beyond immediate captures and focus on long-term stability.
Can Black establish a strong anchor point that forces White into defensive reactions? Or is there a way to challenge the corner control that White has built up?
This game demands positional brilliance.
Every single move will be scrutinized for its ability to restrict opponent movement or create unavoidable capture chains.
The tempo here is everything, and we are waiting with bated breath to see which player makes the decisive play.
Welcome back to the board.
We are deep into the mid-game phase here, folks, and the tension is palpable.
The board is becoming incredibly dense, meaning every single move carries immense strategic weight. Looking at the score readout, 32 for AI versus 22 for you, it's clear that the AI currently holds a significant territorial lead.
They have established a strong structural advantage across the center and along several edges. You are playing catch-up, needing to find opportunities for massive reversals. Strategic analysis, the board is highly contested. While the corners themselves are mostly settled, the focus now shifts entirely to the open seams, the potential points in the middle quadrants. The AI has done a superb job of creating connected chains and solidifying their outer perimeter.
Their pieces act like a net, restricting your movement. Guidance for the next move: if you are looking for an optimal move, you cannot afford to play defensively.
You must challenge the structural integrity of the board. Instead of trying to capture small groups, look for a spot that simultaneously achieves two goals. First, it must create immediate capturing threats, a strong attack, and second, it should aim to connect or stabilize your own weaker formations. The goal right now is not just to gain points, but to disrupt the AI's connectivity.
Find an opening that forces them into a reactive defense. This game is shifting from simple expansion to complex positional warfare. Let's see if you can find the breakthrough point. Welcome back. We are deep into a fascinating mid-game sequence here on the board.
The action is incredibly dense, and both players have established significant control over key areas. Since we aren't seeing a specific move being executed in this frame, let's analyze the strategic landscape for our player.
Strategic assessment: the current state suggests that tempo and stability are paramount.
Our player currently holds a solid lead in piece count, which is crucial as we enter what feels like the critical phase of the game, the late mid-game transition toward endgame precision. We need to look past the immediate flips and consider board control.
Are there any moves that don't just gain points, but also restrict the opponent's future options?
We are looking for a move that establishes a strong flank or secures an adjacent corner point that might otherwise become vulnerable. Key focus areas: 1. Corner stability. While most corners seem settled, checking if any edge points can be used to build a defensive wall is wise. 2. Tempo play. The best moves right now are those that force the opponent into difficult choices or limit their available moveset, rather than simply maximizing flips.
It's a moment for calculated expansion.
If the player can find a solid, non-corner move that simultaneously builds structure and maintains pressure on an opposing edge, they will gain a significant positional advantage as we head toward the final endgame.
Welcome back to the board.
We are deep into a tense mid-game phase here. With the score currently at 32 for black and 29 for white, black holds a slight but noticeable advantage in piece count.
Since we're analyzing this current setup, let's look at the strategic landscape.
The corners are largely settled, which means the battleground has shifted to controlling the remaining edges and central potential points.
Black needs to maintain pressure while looking for moves that maximize captures or establish superior stability.
Notice the cluster of empty spots around the center right, F/G files. If black can secure a move here, especially one that forces white into a defensive response, it will gain significant tempo. The key takeaway right now is positional control. We need to identify if there are any must-play moves that either secure a vital empty spot or, even better, force the opponent to make a suboptimal choice. This board demands precision. Every move must be evaluated not just for immediate captures, but for its long-term impact on corner and edge stability.
It's an exciting stage of the game. And there it is. The match concludes with a perfect draw.
A remarkable display of strategic balance from both sides.
The final count stands at 32 points apiece.
This was not a game decided by brute force or rapid territorial capture, but rather by exquisite positional play and mutual threat management throughout the entire board. Both cyan, black, and magenta, white, demonstrated an incredible ability to counter each other's major moves. We saw periods of intense skirmishes where control shifted rapidly, yet neither player could establish a decisive, lasting advantage.
The draw suggests that both sides played with near-perfect parity, neutralizing the opponent's attempts to corner them or secure overwhelming board dominance. A true masterclass in defensive play and balanced development. A hard-fought battle right down to the final piece. And there we have it. The final move has been played, and the board is locked down. We are seeing the match officially terminated. What an absolute battle!
This was not a game of dominance, it was a masterclass in strategic balance. Both sides, playing as cyan, black, and magenta, white, fought tooth and nail to maintain parity right up until the final piece dropped. The score stands at 32 apiece, a perfect draw. When you look back at this board state, what really shines is the defensive brilliance shown by both players. Neither side could establish a decisive advantage or force a breakthrough corner capture. It was a tight, tactical affair where every move was precisely calculated to neutralize the opponent's threats while quietly advancing one's own territory. A truly professional display of Othello strategy. Both players played with immense skill and positional awareness, making it nearly impossible for either side to gain the upper hand. A draw is a testament to the sheer quality and depth of play displayed by both teams today. Sound of triumphant/dramatic music fades out, and there we have it. The board is completely filled, the energy reserves are balanced, and the final count is in.
What an absolute nail-biter of a match.
The strategic battle has come to a perfect conclusion.
Both cyan, blue, and magenta, white, finished with an identical score of 32 points each.
This represents a masterful display of parity control throughout the game. Neither side could establish a decisive, lasting advantage, leading to a stunning draw. It was a true test of positional play and resource management, a textbook example of how high-level Othello can devolve into a fascinating stalemate. A brilliant performance from both sides.
What a match!